Well, good evening. I'm Dr. Pamela Phoenix, and welcome to the Let's Talk Shreveport show, hosted by To Our Destiny Community Development Corporation. Let's Talk Shreveport is a virtual town hall platform for the northern region of Louisiana. And this evening, I'd like to welcome our guest panelists who graciously accepted the invitation to discuss the introduction of the big, beautiful deal with Where Will We Live? Ms. Howard, it is to you. Please introduce yourself to the community.
Well, good evening. And first, let me say thank you so much for having me. I'm Vernie Howard. I'm Director of Community Development for the City of Shreveport. I am so honored to serve in that role because my primary responsibility as director is to ensure that low to moderate income people who live in the city of Shreveport have access to fair, affordable, equitable housing, that we provide workforce development opportunities, and we're managing millions of dollars worth of federal and state grants to make sure that our underserved community really would have access to those resources. Prior to this role, I was executive director at the Providence House, which is a nonprofit that serves homeless men, women, and children in Northwest Louisiana. And I served in that capacity for nearly 10 years. And so I'm on my third career because I was a corporate banker for 18 and a half years prior to that. And so I think this new role as Director of Community Development is an amalgamation of all of the things that God has really fashioned and created me to be and to do to serve those who may not feel like they have a voice. So that is who I am, a mom of two, and just sent my daughter off to Louisiana Tech on Saturday, so I'm still adjusting to that. And so we have a freshman boy at Byrd, and my husband and I together are associate ministers at our local congregation. So I'm a busy little bee here in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Bless your heart. Well, I definitely count it an honor to have you on the show tonight. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Now, a summary of the discussion will reveal as of late July 2025. You all know that we've been, the last two shows, we've been speaking about the big, beautiful bill. Some name it the big, ugly bill, whichever you like, but the impact it's having on community in the plethora of areas that it's going to be impacted. So the one big, beautiful bill has passed, but there's conflicting information regarding its direct impact on Section 8 housing assistance. And some sources indicate that the bill doesn't include direct cuts to Section 8 funding or the Department of Housing and Urban Development, with one individual clarifying that the discussion may stem from the confusion with the president's proposed budget versus the actual bill. So, and then someone else noted that the bill passed without changing Section 8 funding levels, and additionally proposed changes such as stricter income verification rules and the elimination of new housing choice voucher funding. All of that was discussed, so it's kind of unclear whether these specific provisions were retained in the final version of the bill. Now, what we will be discussing tonight, nothing specifically geared toward the big, beautiful bill, but solutions. You all know that our last two shows, we were trying to determine what actually is the solution for all the impacts to the community as a result of this big, beautiful bill. And we have agreed, some didn't agree, but that community would be the solution. So we've brought Ms. Howard onto the show to discuss with us, with this segment being, where will we live? Mm-hmm. If this really impacted the community to the aspect of they will be unable to receive benefits and have mandates of 2-year limit requirements, and they've already been on Section 8 for 10 years, where will we live? So we're going to be speaking with Ms. Howard regarding all the services and programs that the city has that can possibly meet the need, if it arises, for where will we live. So, Miss Howard, can you just tell us um, a quick overview of the Shreveport Community Development Department's missions and goals?
Sure. And let me, before I talk about the goal, let me just validate and confirm all that you just said, because just as you've described it, there is a lot of concern, discrepancy, uncertainty from every level of government, starting with federal, trickling down to state and down to city. And I say that with some degree of confidence, because in our very own office of community development, we are the recipients of community development block grants, emergency solution grants, which is for homelessness and homelessness services, home grants, which is, to build houses and revitalize neighborhoods. And we were all waiting with bated breath to determine whether or not we would receive any funding for 2026. So just as the community awaits what's going to happen next, we found ourselves in the same position, so much so that we relied on lots of lobbyists and national organizations who sat in the halls of DC to petition our congressmen and women to say, hey, we understand what the president really wants, but let's talk about the implication in our communities, especially as it relates to low to moderate income families. And so we clearly position ourselves in 2026 to have zero funding from these federal sources. Now, fast forward just a few weeks, we did get word from our federal partners that we would receive community development block grant money, that although the president wanted to kind of axe that part of the budget, as well as some other subsidies, Section 8 housing, there was enough support, groundswell of support, to say that may come at some point, but it will not happen in 2026. So
Well, can I ask
Yes.
you this, Miss Howard?
Yes.
When you first started sharing this information, you said everyone was hurting from the federal level on down.
Correct.
And we, as a community development corporation, are getting emails, texts, calls with concerned citizens that are so afraid, thinking that they're going to be homeless when it comes to housing, and asking, what do we do? Is this going to impact me? So what is our response?
And so while I can only speak from my vantage point, I think it is wisdom to be concerned. We clearly, and I don't talk politics because that's not the position that I sit in.
Definitely.
But what I will say is, I would caution all of our citizens to look what's happening. Let's just talk about at a state level. And I want to use the Department of Children and Family Services as a great example.
Awesome.
That one department has now bifurcated itself into three parts. So once upon a time, SNAP benefits, TANF, workforce development, the care of children were all under the umbrella of the Department of Children and Family Services.
Medicaid.
Medicaid, all of that. So effective October, it will look very different. DCFS will focus solely on children and the care of children, which I think it is what it was designed to do and what's most important. We have so many children who are being abused in our foster care system, children who are dying in our foster care system because we had so many employees stretched so many different ways.
Yes.
But herein lies the difference. We will have social services that was once under DCFS, now under Department of Health. And then you will have the workforce component, which is your TANF benefits and your job services under Workforce Commission, which will be Louisiana Works. The only reason I am bringing that to our attention, even at the state level, there is a need to kind of divide up these services. But what's going to happen is when it trickles down to the people that are impacted by it, no longer will you be able to say, I applied for a job, give me my benefits, or I'm limited in what I can do, and so give me my TANF benefits, or the game will change. And so what I'm saying is there is a reason to be concerned, but I don't want our citizens to walk in fear. Concern and fear are two different things to me. So while I don't work for the Department of Housing, that's Bobby Collins, and he is the expert in terms of what's happening with those housing vouchers. But what I will say to our citizenry is, if you have a housing voucher, when you get information in the mail about appointments, when you get notifications from your case manager, do not file those types of things on the shelf and say, I'll get to it later. Begin to educate yourself, read the information. If you don't understand the information, start calling the housing authority. Start calling your case manager. Start calling those, if it's something you don't understand, begin to arm yourself with information. Because
tell me this, Ms. Hart. I'm sorry to interrupt you,
no,
but
that's
you're
fine.
saying so many good things, and I'm sitting here, as if putting myself in the position as a community member that actually needs this help.
Sure.
We have individuals that don't have the capacity to even know how to reach out to housing. On our last show, a nurse practitioner was sharing with the mental health aspect that, they're so used to getting in the mail something from United Healthcare and it's junk mail, so they just dismiss it. Well, every time United Healthcare, they dismiss it, not knowing they've lost their Medicaid service.
That's right.
So when you're saying, when you get something, pay attention to it, etc. If they don't have the capacity to understand what they need to do, or I think community development corporations would really fit the bill in that aspect.
Absolutely.
If they have to bring their mail to us to help them walk through it.
And one of the things that we are doing as a local government, the Department of Community Development, will begin to host quarterly meetings, meaning we're not asking citizens to come downtown we are going into communities, into our parks like A.B. Palmer Park, Elpert Park, library, so that citizens who may have transportation or limited capacity, that we will be accessible to answer those questions and give good information. Because here's what I don't want. I don't want somebody calling up my grandmother over the phone and saying, unless you give me your social security number, your benefits will be taken away. Or encouraging maybe the mom or dad who can read, but maybe not be on the 6th grade level, and maybe clearly don't understand that if I don't answer this survey, that my benefits will be cut off, or that my benefits are going to be reduced by X number of dollars. And so we as a community have to make ourselves accessible. And so what you're going to see from Department of Community Development, you'll see what, for lack of a better term, I'm calling them town hall meetings, but really it's community meetings. And whether we meet you at the park, or we meet you at your church, or we meet you at the beauty shop, we are going to do a much better job of getting that information out so that people are making really good decisions. And I don't want to really go back to what you said before the show started. It really will take this entire community. I have to be concerned with my elderly neighbor. I can't just come home and park my car and knowing my neighbor is 75 years old and may need some support. This is when we're living in a time where we're going to get back to that sense of community, where we're going to have to go and knock on the door and make sure Miss Mabel and make sure Miss, Mother Cannon, who's the mother of our church, to make sure that she has that information and that she is cared for. So while government is making these really big decisions, I feel like we're going back to the core of how we were designed. And that is where community, we are our brother's keeper, where community has to take care of community. And a lot of that rests with me, with the Department of Community Development. It is resting with our mayor, who is saying to every department head, let's make sure we are serving our communities well. And so we can't sit behind our desk anymore and say, oh, well, we mail the information out. We're going to have to make those phone calls to say.
One of the things I would love to see is the city working with community hand in hand?
Oh, you'll
Because
begin.
again, from the last shows, they
Yes.
said community is the answer. I say
Yes.
I can't see it because first and foremost, we're in a different generation.
We
Back
are.
then, we had bartering systems, we had the village raising the child, we had
Absolutely.
committed people that
Absolutely.
were their brother's keepers.
Absolutely.
But where we are today, I'm scared to go knock on my neighbor's door because I don't know what's going on in there.
Yes. Yes.
So, can the city help community get back to community?
And that's exactly, I feel all of the things that I've done over my career, whether it was a corporate bank or serving a nonprofit or whatever I've done, has built me for this very moment where we have to take off those blue suits and really canvas. And really, when we start talking about some of the initiatives that are on our mayor's plate right now, and I don't want to talk about block by block, but I do want to talk about block by block because that is a community initiative. That is where department heads and SPD and the fire department, we are walking these communities, not just cleaning up, but we're knocking on doors and we're checking on our residents. And so it doesn't all happen overnight. It really does happen kind of block by block. But I will tell you, I've been in the role since April 16th, and I'm so honored to have been called, and I use that word appropriately, to do this work for such a time as this. Mm-hmm. And for those who are on the call, you know exactly what I'm saying and you know exactly what I mean. Mm-hmm. And so you really have to be called to do this level of work where we either have to decide we're either going to be fearful ambassadors or we're going to be bold in our witness.
Yes.
And so we really do. And sometimes being bold means, not afraid to share the information, even if it's information that is not happy information. Mm-hmm. I would rather for a mother to know, ma'am, your benefits are going to be cut by 50%. You're going to have to go find a job to feed your children, yes, as opposed to waiting and that mother doesn't realize and now she's homeless in a, yes, shelter. So, yes, we've got to learn how to deliver information, be intentional, but be transparent and to be honest, not dress it up.
That's
not to say, oh, you're going to be fine, don't worry about it. What I am saying to this community is, we don't know what it's going to look like. And I wish I could come in and tell you unequivocally, without a doubt, we're going to have all the federal funding that we need to do. I cannot tell you that. Here's the thing I want you to know. Senator Sam Jenkins was our guest speaker at Rotary about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he presented the Louisiana state budget to the Rotary Club. And the one piece of information that was startling to me, the reason Louisiana finds itself in such a precarious position is because 49% of our budget to operate our state, 49.7% comes from the federal government. Mm-hmm. And I want you to let that sink in. 49.7% of the dollars that operate the state of Louisiana comes from the federal government. So when the federal government speaks and decides to cut anything, we're going to feel it deeper than any other state in the union because we're so heavily dependent on federal funding. And so what do? We have to figure out, just like, so I don't want to date myself, but just like when I grew up at my great-grandmother's house in Mooringsport, Louisiana, if one neighbor shelled peas and the other neighbor had a pig and we had pork chops, we've got to figure out how together we make a meal.
Yeah, the bartering system. And
because we're not going to be able to just depend solely on the federal government, yes, to take care of us. We've got to figure out. And so what are we doing as a department? We are doing things like making sure that we have good job training in place. What does that mean? It means for youth up to age 24, for dislocated workers, and that's somebody who's worked and been laid off, or for adults who may need a trade to earn a living wage. We want to make sure that we are providing job opportunities for those people to, number one, we're going to pay for you to get the training. So if you have a son who says, hey, I don't know what in the world I'm going to do, let me help him get a CDL so he can drive. Excuse me, go around this way, sweetie. I'm on a Zoom call. So he can learn how to will you turn that down? So he can learn how to drive and earn a living wage. We
Definitely.
a
Definitely.
$7 an hour minimum wage job is not going to cut it anymore
No.
because rent is too high. So
Yes.
what I can do as a city official is I can make sure that people who want to work, who may not have had the educational background, that we give them an opportunity to do that. That's one thing that the city of Shreveport can do, will do, has done, and will continue to do a really good job. I need to make sure that we are building communities with more affordable housing. So as we're getting money from the federal government, not just paint your heart out where I go out and paint your house one day a week and feel good about a volunteer opportunity, but we're actually tearing down those houses that need to be demolished and rebuilding new homes. Those are things that the city of Shreveport can do, has done, and will continue to do a better job. So we are in lockstep with our community in terms of understanding what the needs are and meeting those needs.
Well, one of our virtual audience members posed the question, this is a great concept, but what is the follow-up to block by block?
I love that question. In fact, we just did a press release that will come out tomorrow on September 4th. Morning Star Baptist Church, Dr. Theron Jackson, who's a member of that block by block executive team, will host a meeting. It will start at 5 o'clock, September 4th. At Morning Star, and we're going to talk about that very thing. What happens after block by block? The clean sweep was just the beginning. Our goal was to go into 19 targeted neighborhoods. And let me tell you what it means when we say targeted neighborhoods. These are 19 low to moderate income neighborhoods where disadvantaged, poor people have been living in conditions and feeling like they don't have a voice because nobody comes to clean up their street. We wanted to start there. And we wanted to go in and just do the basic things just by cleaning up. Now what we're going to start doing and we have, I think there are 4 more clean sweeps scheduled. So we still have more neighborhoods to go into. But once we do that clean sweep, we're starting to do what we're calling community engagement, where we are hearing from private citizens who are saying, hey, in my neighborhood, we want more lights. In my neighborhood, we want better sidewalks. In my neighborhood, we want parks. So we are beginning to, when the clean sweeps in, we are listening to what the constituents are telling us they want and need in their neighborhood. And we are selecting 2 neighborhoods to get started in. And when I say get started, what I like to call the deep dives. And so those 2 neighborhoods are, and everybody goes, how did you choose Moortown and Highland? That's the big question. We chose Moortown and Highland. And when I say we, the executive committee chose Moortown and Highland because there's an infrastructure already there. There's a really strong homeowners associate, not homeowners, but neighborhood association there. There are strong churches who are already galvanized there, who are already doing some of that work. And it's so much easier to kind of latch on where there's a system already in place, as opposed to some neighborhoods where there's not a strong community organization. There are no voices there. So we've got to start up in some of those other neighborhoods. But what we want to do is to go into these communities and say, you tell me what you want. Here are the dollars we have to invest in your community. Tell us what you want. And so when people...
So you'll actually allow the community to advise, because one of the things that we do, I'm a member of, I'm an executive pastor at Impact Church, and our evangelism
love
teams,
Impact Church.
Yes,
I love Impact Church.
I love my bishop, Bishop Rasby G. Mason II.
Yes.
And site pastor Jacqueline Mason. They're wonderful people. But our evangelism efforts, we fill out surveys. Besides praying for them, ask them if they have any needs, we fill out surveys. And 2 of those questions are, do you need sidewalks in your neighborhood?
Yes.
And do you need, would you like a park? In addition to some other questions.
So let me, and since you've given me this platform, I want to encourage every listener, and I want to encourage the CDC, everybody who's listening, to go to the City of Shreveport's website, click on community development under departments, and the block by block survey is on that website. We'll
Okay,
have there's a
awesome.
QR code for it. Share that out, because this is not a top-down approach. This is a bottom-up. We want block by block to supersede any mayor's term. We wanted to supersede anybody's appointment. We wanted to be what the community is telling us they want. So the survey informs us as an executive team what the community has said. Now, here's what happens. No matter how we try, no matter how we push it out, somebody in the community will say, I didn't get to make my voice known. So all these public meetings, community meetings are designed for just that. Here is the survey. We have it online. We have QR codes. We have paper forms of it. Shreveport Police Department, when they canvass the neighborhoods, they leave them in the mailboxes. We are disseminating surveys because we got to hear from people, because you don't want it to be Bernie Howard's community. You want it to be your community.
Definitely.
So you've got to tell us what you want in your community. So this is very much a bottom-up approach, meaning community informs how we behave, not a top-down. If we build it, they will come.
Okay, so one of the other the same virtual audience member states retention of the event and what staff or outreach persons from the mayor's office or the city would be engaged with this specific project. And I also would like to know, just a caveat to that, where can we find when this block by block meeting will be held, or any coordination efforts? Just like you said, nobody wants to be left out. Just taking general surveys from individuals that attend our in-person town hall meetings. They tell us everything from lights to trees to get the cars parked off of the green grass. Just a plethora of things. So how can we be ensured that my voice counts, and what I say this money needs to do, it really needs to be done?
Okay. And I love those questions. And I think those are such fair questions. So, social media is really kind of the connector. And so right now, I will tell you, if you go to the city of Shreveport, like right now, so if anybody's listening, they say, how can I let my voice be heard right now? If you go to the city of Shreveport's website right now, block by block, the survey, where the next clean sweep is, when the next meeting will be hosted, where the next clean sweep will take place, the community meeting at Morningstar, which will be on the news, in the newspapers, everywhere. All of that can be found on our city's website. Block by block, the executive team, which is led by our city attorney, Marcus Edwards, but it's comprised of Marcus Edwards, Dr. Theron Jackson of Morningstar, myself, Thea Scott, Community Development, Christy Gustafson of Community Foundation, Terrence Green, Property Standards, and Bill Sabo, Economic Development. We live this every single day. This is what we are living and doing every single day. So
there aren't any community people on the executive.
So there aren't community people on the executive committee. Mm-hmm. There were 30 community members that formed the original committee. Mm-hmm. And so what we are now doing in working with our city councilman in every district, we're asking our city councilman, you tell us which community organizer, group, person needs to connect with this block by block initiative, so that we as a 7-member team are making sure we connect with that point person that has been established or recommended by the city council, so that that community gets that information out. Because let me just tell you, if people are waiting for government officials, we all get busy. So that's why we're working with every single community, with our city councilman, with our cattle commissioners, to say, you all help to inform us what group, who should be the repository of this information, so that no voice and no person is left behind. So a lot of this, we wanted to do the clean sweeps first, and then we're doing our community engagement. So I was so excited when I heard from you all, because you're going to be one of our connectors. I don't have to do all the work. I can share that information out through you. You can disseminate that information through the community. But we are relentless in our pursuit to make sure, as we are doing this community engagement, that every member of the community, number one, is aware. Number two, that their voices count. Number three, that they know where to find the information. And number four, that when they have their thoughts, that those thoughts, we can capture that information and respond accordingly.
Yes, the virtual audience, and I love your saying that, Ms. Howard. The virtual audience is asking and discussing about some individuals don't even have the ability to have internet access. Again, like I had said earlier, some don't even have the capacity to be able to, communicate any of their needs. And older citizens generally don't like using the computer and QR codes. Now, I heard you say that the police officers are putting the survey and all of that into mailboxes or whatever. And what other non-electronic manner can individuals get this information?
We've received this a lot. Because whenever we do a clean sweep, Shreveport Police Department, they will go and canvass that neighborhood. They'll have those bags, and a hard copy of those surveys are in the bag. Two things that we've heard from the city, from our citizens, and this is how we're responding. Number one, same thing. I don't use electronic. I need a paper form. And so we're making that available. But what we're also doing in a deeper dive is not just through SPD. You're going to start seeing these surveys at your church. You're going to start seeing them at the beauty shop. You're going to start seeing hard copies in the grocery store. See, if we don't meet people where they are, we may as well not do the survey. We also understand that we've got to deliver the survey in different languages, because we are not, people speak Spanish, people speak French. And so what happens when I don't put the survey out, or when we don't put the survey out and bless you, in another language, then we still exclude a big part of our population. And so, and then let me tell you the other thing we've heard. We've heard the survey's too long. So we have gone back to reduce the length of the survey, and we purposely made the survey the language at a 6th grade level, because we always assume that everybody can read. Everybody can't read. Right. I didn't know for years that I had an uncle who was a business owner who could not read, but he was functionally literate, and so we are taking all of those things into an account. And so as we are hearing back from our community, you're going to begin to see those surveys in your recreational parks. So SPAR, which is a city department, will begin having those surveys at the front desk. So when people are coming to pick up resources, we're going to make it available at the food banks, because we know people go there to get services. So it's our responsibility to make sure that those surveys are accessible everywhere in the form that everyone needs. Now, here's what we're going to ask people to do. And I think you mentioned this group that is often forgotten. What happens with the grandmother who cannot communicate? So no matter what form I put that survey out there, I'm going to need a grandchild or a neighbor to go. So this is the part of being our brother's keeper that becomes important. Will you share this survey with your disabled aunt? And however she communicates, get that information so that we can have her voice too. So our job at this point is to go deeper in getting that survey so we can get the information and respond accordingly.
Well, I'll tell you, Ms. Howard, sometimes I'll have the best intentions of filling out a survey, and whether it be in paper form or electronic, but for instance, this is a paper form. I'll sit it on my counter. I'm going to do that tomorrow. Okay. Pass that. I'm going to do that tomorrow. So naturally, there are individuals out there that will have this paper. The police have put it in the mailbox. We've gone out, given it to them, and they may even fill it out, but it doesn't get returned. I know you have some type of information on there where it needs to be returned to, or anything else, whether it needs to be mailed or whatever. But is there any way, since the city will have individuals actually coming and be being boots on the ground in the community. Is anyone coming out with the surveys and actually sitting there helping the individual fill it out and taking that data to be able to present it to the executive board?
I think that is a great opportunity for us, and I'm going to position it in two ways.
Okay.
The amount of resources that it would take for the city to actually do that would almost be counterintuitive to what we're asking people to do. And so what I'm going to have to say to our citizens, just like we began this session, there are some things that that will have to be important enough for us to do, i.e., if TANF, if the state is sending information, we've got to make it a priority to respond back. We've got to make it a priority to vote. I can do so many things. I can mail you a ballot.
Yes.
I can get you to the poll, but if you don't go into the poll and vote, I can't go in and make the vote for you. So we've got to, as a community, Northwest Louisiana, Shreveport, there are things that we've got to decide. If I let it sit and it's not important enough for my voice to be heard, then it's not important enough for somebody to open it and read it. So I can do it all sorts of ways. So which is why I kind of like electronic, because sometimes when I'm waiting on my kid in carpool and I've done that QR code, I can answer it real quick because it's going to take me 5 to 7 minutes, send it in and it's done. That's quick. It's done. I don't have to think about it again. So, but aside from going in and actually doing the polling and doing it, the amount of resources that it would take for the city to do that could be best used by, helping a citizen in a different way. So we've got to make it our priority. It's just got to be our priority.
Definitely. Well, I definitely appreciate you sharing that information. Look, we haven't gotten to the housing part yet, but
I know.
That is some phenomenal information that you have shared, and we will definitely be looking for that information for the meeting at Morning Star.
Absolutely.
Attending. So let me ask you this. How has your department played a role in improving the quality of life for Shreveport residents?
I love that question. And I think one of the things that we can all look at as a city is the Choice Neighborhood Grant. The Department of Community Development was the recipient, the writer, the implementer of that $24.2 million Choice neighborhood grant. And so what we were able to do, and this is under the leadership of Bonnie Moore, whose position I took and who has just almost single-handedly transformed the community. But I want to use Choice Neighborhood as just one specific example. With that Choice Neighborhood grant, we were able to build housing for low to moderate income families, as well as market rate rents. And it's right there off of, depending on which direction you're going, right off of Common Street. We are on phase 4 of that, which will be 70 units for elderly people. That construction will be underway in less than 30 days, which is phase 4 of the overall project. So what we have done is we were able to tear down the old Wilkinson Terrace in partnership with Shreveport Housing Authority and erect 150 brand new units for low to moderate income families. Not only did Department of Community Development, did we single-handedly administer that grant, but it's not just housing. We are working with 50 Cents and a workforce development component. Right now, as we speak, there are 77 projects that are going on across the city of Shreveport under the umbrella of community development. And let me just share a couple of them with you. Right behind the Brookshires on North Market, there was probably 24 acres of land. We helped the owner gentleman to buy that acreage. What you're going to see on that acreage, you'll see about 150 brand new housing units that will be coming on North Market. So what we are doing, we are tired of taking a Band-Aid, putting a Band-Aid on these broken down, abandoned apartments that should have been torn down years ago.
Mhm.
We're building brand new housing that give low to moderate income families quality of life and dignity. And so transforming a neighborhood is no easy feat, but the choice neighborhood grant is just kind of the best representation of what we do as a department. When I say we have 77 projects going on, we have what we call 8 brand new constructions. One is on Lakeshore Drive. There are 3 in Allendale. There are 2 in Moortown, and then there are 3 more, I'm sorry, in the MLK area where we literally tore the houses down and we are rebuilding from the ground up for 8 low to moderate income families. That's the level of impact that we make every day. Right now, yeah. So housing is at the core of what we do. So community development is kind of like a 3-legged chair. One arm is workforce development. All we're trying to do is help people not just get a job, but earn a living wage through our workforce development program. And we are paying for that. LifeShare Blood Center is one of our great partners. We have paid about $56,000, $60,000 for people to go and get licensed and certified as a phlebotomist. And so we have people going into the hospitals now, entry-level jobs, but making $14, $15, $16 an hour. That's what happens under community development. So we have that workforce development component. And then we have the housing component. And then we're managing multi-million dollars of grants to make sure that we're supporting homeless people. That's a big impact that we make. So when you hear of Hope Connections and Providence House, much of that funding comes from federal government through community development to make sure our homeless families are not just laying on the street in heated conditions, but that we're getting them into shelter. So our work is a big work, and it transforms our city on 3 major levels. And we're proud to do it every single day.
That is definitely massive. And one of our virtual audience members state that we have council members as well as commissioners that aren't involved, responding, or serving the residents in their districts. Can we please inform the community park managers, pastors, store directors, and all persons that leave the survey information to place them in a visible place to the public? So you already said that there are some public locations, that there'll be food banks, etc.
That's right.
What can we do as a community member with this comment that this individual has just made, having the feeling that my council member or my commissioner isn't doing anything to help our community thrive or be revitalized? Or what can we possibly do?
So I want everybody to remember your commissioners and your councilmen are elected officials, and they're elected officials. And I have to say, I have seen the commissioners and our council members work sun up to sundown, whether it's our chair going out to a site when there's been a shooting in the MLK area, or whether it's Ursula Bowman addressing water tanks, or whether it's Councilman Butcher and Brooks addressing citizens' concerns. And here's what I'm going to say. I know that everybody's trying their level best to do their best. I can only speak with my voice. And what I'm going to tell you is, these are elected officials. You elect the people that will represent you. I know that they all say the same thing. Every time I'm sitting in city council meeting or at a commissioner meeting, call your representative, call them and say, hey, I haven't heard from you, or this is my concern. But what happens is we'll say people don't call us or respond to us. Keep calling. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. I also want to avail to everybody who's listening. If you feel like you're not getting a response and it's something critical in your community, call community development. That's what we're there for. We may not be able to fix it on the spot, but that's what community development does. And sometimes sometimes we get the information that we can take to the council members or the commissioners to say, hey, look, Dr. Phoenix called me. This was a concern. Let's make sure we address it. So a council member can't do it by themselves. A commissioner can't do it by themselves. The mayor can't do it by himself. It's going to take all of us. And where I may fail in community development, I'm going to count on economic development to pick up that baton and help us to get it right. So there will be failure. I'm just going to say that because we're just not perfect and we're trying to do the best for everyone, but we're going to miss it. We're going to miss the mark. I'm going to tell you that we're going to, but if you feel like you're not getting the response, call me directly. 318-673-5900 is the direct phone line to community development. If you call me, I will answer and we will call you back. You can email me, bernie.howard@shreveportla.gov. We will respond back. So if your council member hasn't responded, don't take that as my council member does not care.
Yes.
Like Dr. Phoenix, if you gave me an initiative and you hadn't called me back, I'm not going to take that as you don't care. Sometimes things come up in your own life. And so we got to be our brother's keeper and not point fingers, but how can we help one another to get across that finish line so that we all live with dignity, respect, and we have the things that we need to feel healthy and whole, seen, valued, and heard.
Definitely. And I tell you, Ms. Howard, I love your intentionality and the boldness
have
and the belief that you have in all that you're doing. And we are in a season where we need to have a mindset to be our brother's keeper.
We do.
Because the way society is advancing, we're going to need some help. And no man is an island in and of himself.
That's right.
Now, the virtual audience, I tell you that they're trying to get you, Ms. Howard. They say, "How?"
That's okay. I can take the hard questions.
To hold a town hall meeting to speak with the community development, what they do, and educate them about grants and partnerships. We'll try to make that happen for you all. Getting Ms. Howard live and having an in-person town hall meeting,
and we actually had our first community development had 2 public meetings, July 8th at A.B. Palmer Park, at Airport Park, July 10th at A.B. Palmer Park. The response was so overwhelming, which precipitated us. We're going to begin scheduling quarterly meetings, town hall meetings, so we can ask the hard questions. And I think I'm a preacher's kid. My dad was Reverend C.F. Williams, Mount Olive, Pujo. I grew up in Moortown. So my connection to community supersedes the role that I sit in. My husband and I, again, are both ministers at Mary Gula Baptist Church. I have a responsibility that is bigger than my title, that is more important than what you see on my business card. You have to be called to do this kind of work. Yes. And sometimes the answer is, I don't have the answer. Sometimes the answer is you got to get that survey in. I can't hold your hand. You got to that is the right answer. But I want to be available so that I can answer those questions, any questions that they have. So if you schedule a town hall meeting for me, I will show up with my team and we will make sure that we do a good job of taking care of the community because that's our mission.
Awesome.
That's our mission.
We will definitely get that on the calendar. And community, one of the things that we have to understand, as with anything, Ms. Howard didn't get a $20+ million funding for grants without having data. Data is getting the surveys in. Taking that information in order to do what needs to be done. So what community needs to do is make sure that they fill out the surveys and get them out. If you need help, feel free to give me a call, Ms. Howard.
Or call me.
And her number and email. It would be no problem with assisting you. But in our last 10 minutes, Ms. Howard, can you share with me what are some of the challenges and obstacles that your department may face in fulfilling its objective?
I think the biggest barrier, the obstacle is just what we've talked about at the beginning, the unknown. We don't know when the federal government will turn off the spigot. which is why I am relentless in my pursuit to take what we have, what we do know we have, and be a good steward over that and make sure we're building communities and doing all the things that we set out to do. So I don't know what 2027 is going to look like. I just know what today looks like. So the biggest barrier is just having that uncertainty. I think the other biggest barrier is really how do we encourage people to enter into the workforce? We have all of these industries coming in. We're willing to do the training. We're willing to do the educational part of it. We don't have enough people saying, hey, I'm raising my hand to go work.
Gotcha.
And so I can bring every industry in and offer you $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, but you got to show up for the interview. You've got to be, you've got to be responsive, and that's a big barrier. And I think the thing that keeps me up at night is if we don't do a good job today, then we don't leave the legacy for our children.
Definitely.
Again, I grew up, I graduated from Moortown Elementary School. I grew up on Forest Oak Drive, very proud of that. And I was afforded a great education at Caddo Magnet and LSU and got 2 or 3 degrees. But I also realized I stand on the shoulder of women and men who thought in that robbery to sow into my life. And so I am relentless to do the same thing. But if we don't catch this generation that we are losing, these 16, 17, 18-year-olds that we are allowing to not get into the workforce, I don't know what I'm going to do with this baby. If we don't do something, we are failing them. And we do not leave a legacy for them to be successful. And that keeps me up at night. My own 14-year-old boy, I push him hard because I know that there are 2 sets of rules for him.
Definitely.
So I push him hard. He doesn't have the option to fail. He doesn't have that option. And then he has to reach back to the next generation. So what keeps me up, that young adult generation that have just felt like they are thrown away and that they are left behind, if they would just take the first step, use some of this money that the federal government's sending and just get a trade or get a certification so that they can have a better life. That's what keeps me up at night.
Definitely. I recall just from you speaking about your 14-year-old, I was speaking with my 10-year-old grandchildren, twins. And I said, if this is when the equal opportunity legislation had been removed. And I said, now you are going to be going up against other individuals, and you have to have the ability, credibility, expertise, and everything else while you're still in school just to get a job at McDonald's. I said, nothing is given to us, period. Just like you said, there's 2 different sets. But
so
let me intentionally.
Right. I just want to share this very quickly. I dropped my daughter off Sunday, my husband and I, at Louisiana Tech. And she said, these were her words. She graduated from Magnet High, top of her class, mechanical engineering, all the things, right? So grateful. And she said, Mommy, nobody else is in the honors college. She's in honors college because I encouraged her to write the essay and she got in. I said, so let me tell you what's going to happen. When you're done, there are going to be 2 students. It's going to be you and another one. And nothing else separates you. You're going to both have worked really hard. You got your degree in mechanical engineering, and one of you is going to look one way and one of you is going to look another way. I said, the rules have changed. You got to have another little stamp on you.
There you go.
And so we've got to push our kids. So just like I'm pushing Hannah and Matthew, I've got to push other children too. So I don't get to sit in this job with a big fancy title and not so into other children. And so we've got to push them harder because it's not fair anymore. There's no more DEI and there's no more affirmative action. That's all gone.
So how can we, when I get someone tell me I'm looking for a job, and I've always been the person that somebody tell me they're looking for a job, all right, call me, let's get your resume together, let's get it out there in the market, and let's get you on some interviews. And I'll ask you, okay, how you doing with the job search? Oh, nothing. Nobody wants to call me. And you have programs that are in place where they can go back to school. But tell me
And
this,
we
Ms.
will pay
Howard.
for it. We will pay for it.
But if I'm in a situation where I'm not working, I don't have money, my rent need to be paid, and I don't have the time to go to school to get a certification in something to be able to provide for myself.
Yes.
So how do we help them? I guess it's like six in one hand, half a dozen in the other. You need a job so you can pay for keeping shelter over you. Versus, I remember hearing something from Bossier City College. They were doing free fiber optic certifications, and the job started out like $25, $15, $16, $25 an hour. And I'm like, Lord, I need to get my grandchildren from New Orleans up here. So how do we encourage individuals to venture into, okay, let me get this certification that the city is going to pay for. And if I got to live with mom or cousin or whoever for a couple of months while I get myself together.
Okay, so that is the answer. So number one, you don't have to take all the classes at one time. You know, you can. So if I'm working, I can go to work and I can still, it's called sacrifice. I can still sacrifice when I get off work. I may be dead dog tired, but if my class starts at 6 o'clock, I'm going to go work my 8 to 5. I'm going to show up at my class at 6. I'm going to be tired when I get to the house. But if I can press my way just for a little bit, sacrifice just a little bit, then I put myself in position. So when I was at Providence House, one of the things that we did, one of the big issues was childcare. So I actually brought BIPSI's campus to Providence House. So my residents could walk across the street.
Come on.
All the BIPSI professors were there. We had an MOU with BIPSI. They would come to Providence House. I provided childcare. And guess what? But let me tell you this. I had to beg people to walk from across the street. Let me keep and feed your kid while you went to school. So if we're not willing to sacrifice, and I tell people, it's a lot of things I don't want to do, but if I want a better life for my family, if I want a better life for my kids, we've just got to sacrifice. I think childcare is the biggest barrier. And so there, you know, especially at night, which is why we implemented childcare at Providence House. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Providence House has a workforce development program open to the community. So if you need, and it's income basis for our low to moderate income families, call Providence House, Dr. Whitney Polly. If you want to take a certification course, the city of Shreveport has funding to pay for it. And you can go at Providence House, get your certification, let them keep your baby.
Come on, God.
What else can we do? I can't make you go, but the resources are there, and it's a sacrifice.
And like you said, that's it. Definitely sacrifice. I remember I was in my 30s when I went back to school to get my degree, and I'd work at a law firm full time and then come home at midnight writing papers. So when I tell my kids something, I say, listen, you need to do such and such to get such and such. Mom, I'm not you. Yeah, but you can be better than me. It takes sacrifice and putting in the work.
Absolutely. It all takes work. We all got to have some sweat equity.
Well, Ms. Howard, we have 2 minutes left. With that 2 minutes, I'd like you to share whatever is on your heart right now for the community.
Okay. So what I'd like to share is, number one, I am so honored that to have been tapped for this role and to give some direction to community development. It is with sacrifice, but it's with commitment. It is with intentionality. I am strategic about it. I want that people who don't have a voice at the table, that I can be their voice. I want that young adults who feel like there's no opportunity. I want community development to be an opportunity. I want that young men who feel like I've messed up and there's no there's no going back, to know that there is an option. You don't have to stay in that situation that you're in. There are options and there are people. I want you to challenge me and say, that woman got on there and said all that stuff, but I called her, try me and see. I want you to call us, because the money that the federal government gives to us, we can only use it the way that the federal government tells us we can use it. So don't let everybody else get ahead. Take advantage of those resources. And last, go to the City of Shreveport's website, shreveportla.gov. Go under departments, community development, find us, call me, 318-673-5900. Let me connect you with people and resources so that we can all have a better life. That's what I'm called to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Howard.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
We sincerely appreciate all you've said tonight. You have been a blessing to the body and the community.
Oh, thank you so much.
Understand what programs that community development offers. Thank you to all of our virtual viewers. We truly appreciate you being in the house. Please help us share our platform so that we can keep communities knowledgeable. And that is what we've received from our awesome panelists this evening, knowledge. We will see you week after next for another great discussion. Make sure you follow, like, and share so that you won't miss it. God bless everyone.
Good night.
Good night.